Okay, hey, so my name's James, and I'm just going to talk you through this sort of low volume practice setup that I've just got for my house. It's something that a lot of people are after nowadays, and if a traditional sort of electronic drum kit, whatever company it might be, isn't sort of thing you're after, if you want to feel like you're playing more real drums, then this could be for you. So I'm just going to walk through the different settings and all the different components, if you like, that I'm using here. So first, let's start with the cymbals. So these cymbals are Zildjian L80 low volume cymbals. Let's take one off so you can see it a bit closer to the camera, the right way around. This is my ride, so you can see it consists of loads and loads and loads and loads of little holes, and these are meant to sort of get rid of the sort of volume and make it a lot quieter. So I've got 14-inch hi-hats, 16-inch crash, 18-inch ride crash. Now these are pretty cool and they are quite low volume, but as you'll hear in this recording, they're not silent, you know. They're not. You're not going to be able to play these in an apartment as such, unless you play them quieter. But you're not going to be able to, thrash out in an apartment next door to someone else because they'll get pretty annoyed. I'm recording these through just a condenser mic over my right shoulder here, so you'll see just how sort of loud they are. You should get quite a realistic picture of them in your mind. It's not an issue for me. I wouldn't want to play, traditional cymbals here because I am in a semi-detached house. But these just about solve that problem for me. They're not going to carry through, 3 sets of walls, which is basically where I'm playing from in relation to my neighbour. So I'm cool with these and they work really well for me. So let's have a listen to them. Hi-hats. Crash. And then ride. Now the ride I really like. I think that's a cool cymbal. It washes nicely as well. What I found with these, the bigger the cymbals are, the better they sort of sound and feel with the stick. The crash, being a 16-inch, you'd think 16 would be big enough, but it's just got so much attack. You struggle sometimes to kind of hear the crash for the initial kind of attack from a drumstick, which is a little bit annoying. You kind of have to adapt, if you like, to playing it. You sort of swipe through it a bit, it kind of works quite nicely. The hats, depending on what kind of hi-hats you like, but stick to definition isn't a bad thing on hi-hats, so that doesn't really annoy me that much. And into the edge of the hi-hats, they sound quite cool. These are kind of cymbals I've seen people stacking them, and you can get some real cool sounds because when they sit against each other, they do sound, almost, it's metallic, but it's got a little bit of sort of sizzle coming after it, which is cool. Ride, not too much of a problem because the cymbal's bigger. So like I said, the attack isn't too bad. It is on the crash, and we do a 14-inch crash, which I would stay away from if possible. I presume this is the same thing with all the different types of low volume cymbals. It's probably something you can't get too far away from. So they've probably done that, the absolute best that they can do with the situation. But yeah, the ride's quite cool. It doesn't offend me too much. But I could probably imagine myself getting a 20-inch ride and using this 18 as my crash. And that just might make me feel a little bit happier with these cymbals. So how do they sound in a groove? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Get a bit of a jazz thing to give you an idea of that. Bit of shuffle on the hats. So yeah, you know, all things considered, I mean, you can't make a silent cymbal, can you? The 80 in these is meant to be 80% quieter. So as a practice cymbal, you know, as long as you take into account that they're not going to be mega quiet, you could have them in apartments, but you're just going to have to play them quieter. You're going to have a softer touch. If you're playing quite quiet, they're not going to ring or be too aggressively loud or anything, you know. You could practice quite easily at that kind of volume, and they'd be alright for you, I reckon. So, onto the heads. These are Remo silent stroke heads that I'm using. One ply drum heads, made out of like a mesh. They're not the same as the heads on, you know, your normal Remo Roland electronic drum kits, as the V drums. I know those heads are made by Remo, I believe, but they're I think some of them are 2-ply or even 3-ply. These are just a single ply, which is a little bit of an issue because just with the nature of the mesh as well, they are super bouncy. So one thing you have to do with these is tune them low. Now this was kind of a bit of an issue for me, because I've taken the Rezo heads off the bottom of my, this is a Questlove, Ludwig Questlove, that I turned into this hybrid setup, or silent practice kit setup, whatever you want to call it. I've taken the bottom heads off of this because I've tuned my snare really low to get a bit of a real feel. I've left my snares on. If I just mute the TM2 for a second, which I'll get onto in a minute. So that's muted. But you can hear these silent stroke heads kind of on their own a little bit now. And I've kept the snares on because I'm not always practicing with my drum module here with the TM2, so I thought I'd quite like a little bit of snare in there to just give me a bit more of a realistic feel. But I'll turn it off because it's vibrating through my voice. With the snares being super low, both Batter and Rezo, what's happened is when I play the toms, obviously the snare just buzzed like crazy through it. So I completely took the I took the lugs off and everything. The Rezo head, the lug, the tension rubber rim, everything I just removed, which has made it a lot better actually. But saying that, you get no tone out of the drums if you're just practicing without the triggers on, which we'll talk about now. So I'll mute this. There we go. So this is a Roland TM2 that I'm using, which is a really cool little thing. I'm using this at gigs as well, so I'm using it in sort of two scenarios. I'm using it here as a practice scenario, and then I'm using it at gigs to layer sounds and things like that. So what I'm doing with the TM2, which I don't want you guys to make this mistake as well, I'm splitting the trigger ins. So the trigger input is stereo into 2 mono. My number 1 channel is serving the kick and snare, number 2 is doing the toms for me, which is a pretty cool thing. But I bought these originally. Now these don't work too great. Well, to be honest, they didn't work at all. I don't know what I did wrong, because I've got a stereo jack in, and I presume 2 monos. Maybe I bought ones, and these are mono, or because it's not a direct signal. I don't know. Someone might be able to tell me what I've done wrong with these, but who knows. So there were a couple of quid off Amazon or something, I believe, and I've just decided to keep them anyway because they'll come in use for something. But then I got these other ones, which it's a stereo in and splits into 2 monos. I think it's got an insert cable as well, so you can search for insert cable and you'll find it. I didn't get an official Roland one because that was super expensive. But basically, they split into 2. It's like a Y cable, so stereo to 2 mono. But I would get the ones that are going to link it direct, and not these with a female ends, because you might run into the same problems that I did. So basically, I've got triggers on my kick. That's an RT30K. I've got a dual trigger on my snare, although I'm not using it right now as a dual trigger. I've got singles on the tom-toms. All of these are the RT30 triggers, which are really, really cool, and work great. And it's just got a little like thumb screw on the side, and you just tighten that up, and it's clamped on. One issue, which is quite a big issue actually, if you try to do the same setup as I do, you can't get a rim click sound, obviously, because we're running this as a single trigger. Now, you might have even heard it just then when I tapped it. But what's happening, I hit the rim and it triggers my snare sound. Really annoying if I want to do a rim click, it's just triggering a snare sound. I'm sure there's ways I can get around this by putting like a rim riser on or something like that, but I don't particularly want to do that. So that's annoyed me. So obviously that's going to interfere with my kind of practice routine a little bit, because I can't get the rim click sound of a normal snare sound unless I'm just running these as 2 separate 2 stereos, because that way I can put my dual into 1 stereo channel, and I can have control then of the rim gain and like head and rim adjustment, and I can totally eliminate that and get 2 sounds for rim and head. But this, because it's attached to the rim, I'm guessing it's just vibrating the trigger and the noise is coming through. It does it on the toms too. So unless you're using it with your normal stereo jacks and using a dual trigger on the snare, you're going to get that same issue. So you might be thinking, oh, I might save a couple of pounds and get the single trigger for a snare drum, because I'm not wanting to trigger rim click sounds anyway. Now that's not going to work. Get a dual one, it's about, I think it's only £2 more or something, or as much as £5 more. So get the dual and then you can have control over that. But in my setup right now, as I said, I cannot control between the head and the rim, which annoys me a bit. I didn't think it'd do that, but it does. And it's just something I'm going to have to get over by buying one of these rim risers or something like that, or making one myself out of an old piece of snare rim and just raising that rim up and hoping it doesn't vibrate through and still come through. But all in all, I've managed to get a relatively decent setup. So I'll give you a little bit of a play of how everything sounds as a whole. Okay, so the Silent Strokes snare. Now I've got a steel sort of snare sound coming through there, which I like, which is an original sound from the TM2. I'll bring you a bit closer to that in a minute and we'll have a look. And then these toms, the TM2 doesn't really have any decent tom sounds in it that aren't like electro toms and stuff, or rotor toms or whatever. So it's got an SD input. Really easy to find some free samples online, and I got these sort of real tom sounds. And then my kick. Now again, the kick, you have to tune that super low to get a realistic feel, and I've put loads of dampening inside it as well, just a few blankets and stuff, and it feels alright actually, it's not too bad now. But if you don't do that and it's cranked too high, you're going to get your beat is going to vibrate against the mesh head a bit, which is annoying. So yeah, a bit more playing, and then I'll bring the GoPro over, and I'll go through the settings I used to do this stereo into mono to use 4 triggers. I'll go through that. Here we go. Rolling. As anyone who knows who's used any triggers before is going to be a bit of a problem. It's not too bad for one-off kind of buzz strokes, but when you get into a roll, it's going to miss some of those strokes. That's just triggers for you. I don't think anyone's actually invented a trigger yet, unless it's on a V drum, that works completely well with a drum roll. So little buzz strokes, like I said. Pretty decent. Okay, so we'll get onto TM2, which is awesome. I love it. I've set up on. I've made my own kit essentially. You can use the samples that are already in there and copy them to your sort of new drum kit number, which mine on here is for 53. I've called it real, just wanted a real acoustic sound. What you're going to get if you're splitting it my way, you're going to have to make your own kits if you're using the wide cables, like stereo into mono cables. You're going to have to sort of make your own kits really, because it messes with the settings of the thing a little bit, and you go to the other kits that are only designed for 2 triggers, and it's not going to work entirely well. So you know, I could run you through all the different kits in the TM2, but there's other videos on that, and it's pointless me doing it with the way I'm set up anyway. So I'll bring over the GoPro and I'll tell you about these settings that I've got and how you need to do this to split your triggers. I'll show you a few of my levels and some of the effects that I've got on, and then that's about it really. So here we go. I'll just grab the GoPro and show you that. Okay, so this is my TM2. Now, obviously this isn't a new thing. There's a TM1 out now, which you can use as a foot controller as well, which is pretty cool. I like the idea of that. Maybe they'll bring out a TM3 with more trigger inputs as a foot controller as well, and have a sort of crossover of those. That'll be a really good idea. I reckon that'll probably happen quite soon. And there's a TM6 with, I think, is it 6 dual, so 6 stereo inputs, so you can probably use a total of 12 sounds in that, which is really cool too. But this was nice and cheap. I think I paid 150 quid for it, and I've got a good sort of module as a practice kit. What you need to do if you want to run it with splitter cables and get 4 sounds essentially from it, is you need to do this. You need to go Shift, Instrument, Trigger Setup, and there you go, Input Pad ×2. Now that is what you want. The other alternative is this, Head Rim. You do not want Head Rim because that's for like the dual trigger, which I've got on my snare. That's what I'd use if I was just using my RT30HR, which is a dual trigger, and the kick one, and my kick trigger. That's what I'd use. Head and rim on one input, and you can tell it to recognise the exact trigger for the kick on the other input. So there we go. So I'll press instrument, and that takes us back. Actually, before I do that, I need to go back to pad ×2. There we go. So, and then what it'll be doing, if I press instrument again, okay, and if I press instrument again now, it actually shows us what we're using. So I've got soft kick, that's my bass drum, okay, so, and it's staying at 1H there. Alright, if I do my snare drum now, which is running from the same input, that changes to 1R, 1 rim, okay. So I can change the sounds, levels, effects on all of those individually. Right, I'll go to my rack tom now, 2 rim, and that's a sound not off a TM2 like I said before, and a 4 tom, 2H, 2R, 2H, and you can see it's on the same sort of instrument channel if you like, but what I've done with the toms, I've just changed the pitch, which is mega easy to do. All your settings for all of these, you just run through here. I've pressed instrument already, so I think that's on the 4 tom, yes it is. So you just level, dynamics, pitch, so you can see I've gone way down on my pitch to get that 4 tom. I should have just got a decent 4 tom sound to begin with. And you go through, if you want effects on them, you go through to effect, send, and you need to press that to make sure it is on. Okay, and I've got a reverb on there, which I've got I think on all the drums, and it sounds pretty sweet. So that's how I'm running the TM2 with my particular kind of practice setup that I'm using here. First sort of, I'll just plug this GoPro back in. First kind of reactions to it all is that I really like it, to be honest. I'm really pleased with what I've got going on here for relatively low budget. I mean, I've probably spent cymbals around £200, I think, yeah, something like that, maybe just short of £200. That should be about right, I think. Hopefully you can still see me, maybe not. I'll just do a bit higher. Yeah, cymbals about £200. Obviously this one with the 16-inch crash is a bit more expensive than the one with a 14-inch crash. Heads, I think probably for all my heads maybe around the 50 quid mark. Obviously this is a kit I already had, so if you're going to have to go out there and buy your own kit, it's going to cost more. I'm not using this kit really at all, apart from as a kind of vessel for this, because I'm not getting any original sound out of this drum kit. So that makes no difference. You could use a completely crappy drum kit for this. Heads maybe about 50 quid, so about 250 quid. Each one of these triggers, the Roland triggers, is around £50. So that's another 200, 400, 450 so far, and then my TM2, which was £150. So, you know, 650 quid. Or 600 quid, that sort of mark, and you'll be able to get this kind of thing done. Now you're getting towards budget, if you like, electronic drums there. But the idea of me wanting this was to play on what I feel as real drums. I feel like I'm sat at a real kit now, as real hardware. It's not just black plastic stuff that's falling all over the place. I'm hitting real size drums, albeit this is quite a small drum kit anyway. And my cymbals are again relatively real size, so I feel like I'm playing a drum kit. I'm not sort of sat there and feeling like I'm a giant playing these small pads. I know Roland V drums are amazing now, and if you're getting the top of the line, they're now making them in proper sizes, because no one wants to play a little snare drum there or a tiny. I just never got on with electric drums, which is why I did this for myself. Some people might. That's up to you. But yeah, so 650 quid or so, and a crappy drum kit that you might already have, and you can get this done. Yeah, cool. So I'll play you out, and this is my setup. Zildjian L80s, Remo silent strokes, RT30 triggers, Roland TM2. Off we go.